It's Alice, just me, sitting here with a story that's been rattling around in my head like an old song I can't quite place. A few years back, I figured I was the glue holding my family together, hunched over my sewing machine, stitching away like each thread was a lifeline. But life's got a funny way of tossing you a curveball when you least expect it. Turns out, I wasn't the glue. I was their walking ATM, spilling cash like a leaky faucet. This is my messy little tale, one I'm spilling out right here on Reddit stories where the bumps and bruises of life turn into something worth a chuckle or two. Not so long ago, I'd be parked at that machine, needle and thread in hand, piecing together curtains to keep our house from falling apart, one stitch at a time, slow and steady. Mom and Dad? They'd be cozied up in their armchairs, coffee cups cradled like prized possessions, swapping stories about the good old days I'd heard a million times. Meanwhile, my sister Emily floated around like she was starring in her own dream, flipping through fashion mags, her latest pair of heels sparkling in the corner, little treasures she never had to earn. I'd slip my paycheck over to cover the rent, every penny scraped from my stitching, while she'd weave a sob story about needing just one more thing. Then I saw my money fade, like a whisper snatched by the wind. Where'd it slip off to? That question burrowed into me, pulling out a crooked grin and a truth that hit slow and heavy, like a shadow you can't dodge. They loved me, my family swore. Loved me the way a CR bill shuffles cash to the wrong hands, leaving you with echoes of promises that never held up. It wasn't just cash vanishing, it was trust fraying, stitch by stitch, until I was left with the sting of realizing I'd been played too long. Curious who loved my money more than me? Subscribe if you're up for it. Let's unravel this together. It's a real-life riddle, fleeting as a lunar eclipse, and I swear it'll stick with you, warm as that first coffee sip on a cold day. So let me set the scene for you, friends. These past few years in my family, I was the one holding it all together, or so I thought. Picture me hunched over my sewing machine from dawn till dusk, stitching dresses like my life depended on it, just to keep the lights buzzing, the rent paid, and yes, even that old record player spinning. It wasn't for me, mind you. Oh no, it was so Mom and Dad could sit back and catch the evening news, enjoy a nice dinner, their voices a constant hum of complaints about the weather swinging from hot to cold, sometimes fierce like wildfire, or the neighbors' stories that always seemed to ruffle their feathers. Meanwhile, I'd listen to their grumbling, my hands trembling from the endless thread, wondering if this was what family was supposed to feel like. Mom and Dad had their excuses down to an art form. Dad would groan, "Oh, my back's been shot since I danced the twist too hard back in the day," as if one wild night had cursed him forever. Mom, on the other hand, would sigh, "I'm past 60 now, Alice. Time to rest." Like 60 was some golden ticket to a life of leisure. And then there was my sister Emily, always busy finding herself. Finding herself, huh? Most days that meant smearing on lipstick or parading around in a new pair of feathered heels she'd somehow convinced someone else to buy. Me? I was too busy flipping through the pages of my savings book. Spoiler alert. It was emptier than a disco floor at sunrise, every line screaming, "Withdrawn $300, then $500, gone without a trace," like magic I never signed up for. Can you imagine it, friends? A ledger so bare it might as well have been a ghost town, tumbleweeds and all. I didn't complain, though. Not at first. I told myself that's what family does. You help each other out. You carry the load when the others can't, or won't. I'd hand over my earnings with a quiet nod, thinking it was my duty, my little thread keeping the fabric of us intact. But then I started noticing the money trickling away, flowing out like water through my fingers, steady and relentless. I'd blink at my shrinking balance, my heart sinking a little deeper each time, and not once did anyone pause to ask, "Alice, you holding up okay?" No one wondered if I was drowning under the weight of it all, just kept sipping their coffee, flipping their magazines, stepping into their shiny new shoes. Where'd that money go? That question started as a whisper, a faint rustle in the back of my mind, but it grew louder, more insistent, until it was all I could hear. I'd lie awake some nights, staring at the ceiling, suspicion curling around me like a fog I couldn't shake. Was it them? Was it someone else? I didn't want to believe it, not yet. I mean, they were my family, right? The ones who'd pat my shoulder and call me good old Alice. The ones I'd sewn my life into, piece by painstaking piece. But doubt has a way of creeping in, doesn't it? It's like a thread pulling loose, one tug, and the whole seam starts to fray. So stick with me, friends, because this is where it gets interesting. I began to wonder, to poke at the edges of what I thought I knew, but I wasn't ready to face the answer, not just yet. Where'd my cash slip off to? Who or what was tugging it away from me? Keep listening, because the truth was waiting, quiet and patient, ready to unravel everything I'd held dear. Years rolled by and life took a turn I never saw coming. I met James one rainy afternoon when my car sputtered to a stop in the little town of Columbia. Tires flat, engine coughing, and me stranded like a lost sock. He pulled up in his beat-up truck, all grease-stained hands and a crooked grin, and somehow, between a tow and a cup of diner coffee, we clicked. Fast forward a bit, and we were married, raising a little girl with eyes like his, and a giggle that could melt the hardest day. But even with my own family to tend to, I kept sending money back home. I told myself it was love, a lifeline to keep mom and dad steady. Only the longer it went on, the more it felt like a contract I'd never signed, a one-way deal with my name scribbled in invisible ink. Then came the day I checked my savings account. I flipped open that little book, expecting to see a modest nest egg, something to lean on. Instead, my money had flown the coop, vanished like a SpaceX rocket blasting off into a storm, leaving nothing but a trail of smoke and a big, fat zero. I couldn't even scrape together enough for a loaf of bread for my daughter, her wide eyes blinking up at me as I fumbled through empty pockets. My hands shook as I traced the numbers, or lack of them, each page a silent slap reminding me I'd been bleeding cash without a bandage. A few days later, the truth waltzed in, courtesy of my chatty neighbor, Mrs. Elsie. She leaned over the fence, her voice a conspiratorial whisper, and said, "You'll never guess what I saw. Your folks just bought Emily a shiny new Tesla." A Tesla? My jaw hit the floor. "Oh, they said Emily needs some fun," she added, mimicking Mom's airy tone. Fun? I'd been wiring money faster than I could sew a hem, thinking it was for groceries or doctor visits, only to find out they'd splurged on a car for my sister, a car I couldn't dream of touching, let alone driving. Meanwhile, I was over here wondering if my next paycheck could stretch to cover the gas bill. Funny, right? The kind of funny that makes you laugh through gritted teeth. There I stood, needle still in hand, the hum of my sewing machine a faint echo behind me. I stared into space, picturing it. Me slaving away to keep the lights on, while Emily cruised by in her electric chariot, probably tossing her hair like a queen on parade. Should I stitch together a new ATM for them, I wondered. Rig up a cash dispenser right here in my kitchen? Lucky for me, I hadn't lost my mind that far, not yet. I could almost hear the coins clinking in my head, a mocking little jingle to the tune of "Good old Alice Strikes Again." They loved me, oh sure they did. Loved me with all the warmth of a bank teller sliding a deposit slip across the counter. But my money? That was the real star of the show, the golden child they couldn't get enough of. They'd swear it was all for the family, but the way they handed it over to Emily, you'd think I was the spare tire and she was the whole damn car. It wasn't just favoritism, it was a spotlight swung in the wrong direction, leaving me in the shadows with nothing but lint and a lesson I didn't ask for. One evening, I needed Mom and Dad to watch my little girl so I could slip away to a company party. I'd gone all out, dug through my closet, pulled on an old shoulder-padded blazer, and stood in front of the mirror. My hair was fluffed just right, My spirits were high, and I was halfway out the door, juggling my purse and a coffee cup, when I called Mom to confirm. I could picture her on the other end, maybe stirring her tea, but her voice sliced through the line like a dull knife. Alice, I'm not your hired babysitter. I nearly dropped my Starbucks right there on the kitchen floor. Splash, caffeine, everywhere. The shock hit me like a cold draft sneaking through a cracked window, but somehow I managed a shaky laugh. Can you believe it, friends? After all I'd done, all the checks I'd written, I stood there, clutching the phone, chuckling through the sting. Okay, Mom, I mumbled. I'll figure it out. Figure it out. I always didn't I? James was stuck at work late, so I scrambled, called a friend, and made it to the party with lipstick smudged and a smile that didn't quite reach my eyes. But that no from Mom? It stuck with me, a little thorn I couldn't pull free. Later that night, driving home, I decided to swing by their place. Just a quick stop, to drop off some party leftovers. I pulled up, and there it was, framed in the warm glow of their living room window. Mom and Dad swaying gently, singing a lullaby to Emily's kids. My foot froze on the brake. Emily's kids? I blinked, rubbed my eyes, but the picture didn't shift. There they were, crooning like a pair of tender-hearted songbirds, their faces soft with a care I hadn't felt in ages. I rolled down my window, catching the faint tune, and Mrs. Elsie's words from the other day rang in my ears. Oh, Emily had a headache from dancing too much last night. She needed a break. Dancing too much? A headache? I'd have laughed out loud if my throat wasn't so tight. There I was, parked in the shadows, peering through that window like a stranger at a play I wasn't cast in. I stood outside, hands in my pockets, wondering what Mom was doing all those times I'd begged for help, when I'd needed her, just once, to step up for my girl. What kept her then? Rearranging the spice rack, counting clouds from the couch? Yet here they were, doting grandparents for Emily's little ones, because she'd twirled herself silly the night before. I could almost taste the irony, sharp and bitter. They weren't my babysitters, no, sir, but for Emily? They'd pull out the songbook and serenade her kids to sleep. My money must have been a jack of all trades, keeping the house running and doubling as a backstage pass for their sudden gig as crooners. I leaned against the car, the night air nipping at my cheeks, and let out a dry chuckle. Should I be furious? Part of me wanted to march up, bang on the door, and ask why my cries for help got a shrug while Emily's hangover earned a lullaby. It stung, hot and quick like the lunar eclipse 2025 I'd read on the internet, when the dark sweeps in and you can't look away. They'd always called me their good girl, patted my head like I was some loyal pup bringing home the bacon. Good old Alice, they'd say, dependable as sunrise. But here's the kicker. I was only good when my ATM was stocked, spitting out cash like a vending machine on overdrive. They loved me, sure, loved me the way a CR bill shifts funds to the wrong hands, handing out favors while I stood there, pockets turned inside out. It wasn't love, it was a transaction, and I'd been the fool balancing their books, writing checks with my own sweat while they cashed in on someone else's dance. But sitting there, sipping my coffee, I saw it clear as day. I didn't have to be their money machine anymore. Why had I spent so long stitching their lives together when mine was fraying at the edges? That morning, I decided it was time to sow something new, for me, for James, for our little girl. I'd poured years into them, thread by thread, but now I'd snip that cord and weave my own story. It wasn't about anger. It was about freedom, about loving myself more than their endless needs. That's where it turned, friends. I wasn't just cutting checks. I was cutting ties, and it felt like breathing for the first time in years. The truth had unraveled me, sure, but it stitched me back stronger, wiser, too. I'd been their fool, but no more. The lesson? Sometimes you've got to let go to find what's really yours, and that's a thread worth keeping. If you've enjoyed this ride, subscribe to Reddit Stories. Let's keep unraveling life's quirks together. A week or two after I cut the money cord, Mom and Dad showed up at my door. They stood there looking worn and weary, eyes red and puffy like they'd been up all night rehearsing their lines. I opened the door, half expecting an apology, but no. They launched right back into their old song and dance, pleading for cash like it was my job to keep their world spinning. I couldn't help it. A laugh slipped out, dry and sharp. "If you need money," I said, leaning against the frame with a grin, "sell Emily's Tesla. It's worth more than my love ever was to you." Mom's knees wobbled like she'd seen a ghost, nearly toppling over from the shock, while Dad muttered under his breath about my words, my choices, like I'd rewritten their script and they didn't know the lines anymore. I just stood there, smiling, and gave them a little wave goodbye, shutting the door as their voices faded into the hum of the afternoon. It was almost funny, like I'd spent years as the understudy in their family play, scurrying backstage to keep the props in place, while they never once glanced my way to see if I had a scene of my own. But that day, I stepped off stage, and the spotlight wasn't mine to chase anymore. Looking back, I can still hear those evenings years ago. Our little house alive with the scratchy hum of that old record player, all of us gathered close, voices overlapping in a messy, happy chorus. Mom would hum along, Dad would tap his foot, and Emily would twirl like she owned the room. Those moments flicker in my mind now, warm and golden, like snapshots tucked in a drawer. I hold on to them, those soft echoes of what we were, but I don't cling to the bills that kept it all running. Not anymore. They're just paper, crumpled and spent, not worth the weight I gave them. Funny how it works, isn't it? When I let go, I found something I didn't even know I'd lost, like slipping out of a tight, stiff jacket and into a cozy sweater that fits just right. I'd been their financial servant, pouring out years of stitches and sweat, propping them up while they handed the rewards to someone else. But here's the twist. I don't resent it anymore. I get it. I served their needs too long, but I learned to serve myself better, and that's enough. The other day, my little girl tugged at my sleeve, her big eyes sparkling with that endless curiosity kids have. "Mommy," she asked, "are you a bank?" I burst out laughing, the sound bouncing off the walls like a melody I'd forgotten I knew. "No, sweetie," I said, pulling her close. "Just a gal who knows how to sew dresses. And maybe a little luck, too." She giggled, and I felt it. That lightness again, a thread of joy stitched into the life I'm building now. So that's where it ends, friends. Or maybe where it begins. Letting go didn't just cut me loose from their endless tab. It handed me back my own story, one I'd been too busy funding theirs to write. They might have loved my cash more, but I love this freedom more. More than their needs, more than their noise. It's a quiet kind of victory, warm as that first sip of coffee on a cold day, and I'm holding it tight. Stick around, because life's quirks don't stop here, and I've got plenty more to share. So that's my stories, friends, but I'd love to hear yours. Let's keep this going. What about you? Where'd your money wander off to over the years? Did it slip away to a sibling's shiny whims or vanish into some family black hole? Drop a comment below and spill your story. I'm dying to know. I mean it. There's something about swapping these little truths that makes the load feel lighter, like we're all sitting around a kitchen table, coffee in hand, laughing at the messes we've lived through. If you got a chuckle out of my family loving my cash more than me, like a CR bill gone haywire or that eerie red glow of a blood moon casting shadows back in District of Columbia, then hit that subscribe button. Join me on Reddit Stories, where we dig into the quirks of days gone by, those bittersweet moments that stick with you like a tune you can't shake. I've spent years stitching up other people's lives, but now I'm here, sharing mine. And maybe yours too. Let's keep finding the joy in these old tales, the kind that warm you up like a favorite sweater on a crisp morning. Comment, subscribe, stick around because there's plenty more where this came from, and I'd hate for you to miss it.